Hey everyone, welcome to section 5 of the JavaScript course. And in this section, we're going to be going over arrays and strings. Um, so this, what you see on your screen right now, is what an array is. And this is essentially what also a string is, right? So you guys have learned about strings already. Well, strings are just an array of characters. Um, so a character is just a single letter, right? This can be C, it can be, I don't know, K, right? My writing sucks, but yeah. So that's what a character is. A character can be any one of those things. And in JavaScript, we don't really have the concept of characters. Um, we usually just use strings, and then if we need a character, we just make it a string that's a single letter, which is fine, and that works. There's nothing wrong with that. But in other languages, there are characters, and that's something to be aware of. So just if you're wondering why we group the lesson of strings and arrays together, that's why. A lot of the things that you can do with arrays, you can also do with strings, and you'll see that in the reading, right? So make sure you go through the W3 school stuff of arrays. See, there's all these different methods. A lot of these methods that are in the array, they're going to be also found in string, right? So look at this, for example, concat. You can see concat right here as well. A lot of these methods overlap. Find index, find index, or index of, last index of. There it is, index of. So a lot of overlap between these two. So whatever I say here kind of can apply to strings as well. Okay, so what is an array? So this is a picture of what an array is, essentially. So you can think of an array as a box, right? And that's what this is. This is like a box. And I don't know if you guys celebrate Christmas, but um, during Christmas you have a Christmas tree, and in this Christmas tree you would decorate it, right? You would put ornaments on it. And if you ever got the box of ornaments out, sometimes they are in these little boxes, right? So it's a box and they're all subdivided in their own little compartment so they don't break and break and bump into each other and get scratched up and damaged. So what do is they put them in their little dividers. And that's exactly what an array is. An array is just a data structure. So a structure to store data, right? To have some kind of structure. If you think about the word data structure, it is to structure the data in a manner that is manageable. And that's what this is. So each slot has its own individual space, and you can put anything you want in here. So here we have a string. Here we have a number. Here, this is another array, right? This is an array of number 1 and 2. And this concept, to store an array inside of an array, you're going to need that for your assignment for this section. And that's essentially the basis of it. Now, the other important thing is how to access all of these items. Each item has its own address, and the very first item, its address is 0. This is kind of like where the box is. This is its own number, right? So string is an index. This is called an indice, right? These are indexes. You're indexing the location of each one of these. So 0 is going to give you string. 1 is going to give you the number 100. 2 is going to give you an array of 1 and 2, etc. So it starts at 0 and it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah blah blah, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it goes on, but I just stopped it here. So there's no real limit. I mean, there technically is, but for the purposes of our class, don't worry about it. This is plenty. Okay? So that's the visual representation of what an array is. Now, the code implementation of what an array is looks like this. So to create an array in JavaScript, you can do one of two things right up here. You can either say new array Or you can use these two brackets. You see how these two brackets kind of look like a box? That's where this came from, right? And that's where this is. That's why I wrote it this way. This is with the two brackets to indicate that's an array, because that's how you create an array in JavaScript. Okay? So this is an array with items already populated in it. So this is a company's array. And in this array, we have Apple, we have Google, Amazon, and Uber. And these are all strings, right? So this is just a string. These are just a string array with all of the different company names in it. And you see there's the closing bracket here on the right end and the opening bracket on the left end. And that's how you create the array. Um, Now, how do you add things to the array? There's two different ways to do it. Well, there's technically three. You can assign, I'll show you that later. But for now, what you need to know is push is going to add to the end of the array. So that's going to put meta right here. It's going to look like this. But of course, we don't want that in there right now. We want the computer to do it. So that's why we give it this command. Um, Push 100. That's going to add a number. Remember, I said you can put anything you want in these arrays. If you want, you can put numbers, you can put strings, you can put other functions, objects, whatever, anything you want. And again, we'll get to those concepts in the next lessons. But and then so that's push. Push adds it to the end. So it's going to add meta, then it's going to add the number 100. Now unshift is going to add it to the front. Okay. So it's going to say 555 and it's going to go right up here in the front. So it's going to look like that. Okay. And that's all it is. So you just, whatever you want to add in here, you put in the parentheses. That's it. It's very, very simple. So let's go ahead and console log this and see what it looks like. And there you have it. So there's 55. There's Apple, Google, Amazon, Uber, Meta, and the number 100. Okay. And now let me show you how to access these different items, right? So this is how you access an individual item inside of the array. So 0 is going to access the very, very first item that's in the array, right? Just like this, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the same thing here. We're accessing 0. 0 is 555. Number 3 is, well, 0, 1, 2, 3 is going to be Amazon. Okay? So this should print out 555, Amazon, and then this is the length of the array. So the length of the array is going to be 7. Why is it 7? Because there's 7 items in here. Now that's something tricky that gets a lot of beginners, okay? This length item does not return 6, it returns 7. So it does not start with 0 like the indices do. It gives you the actual number of items that are in there. It can give you 0 if it is an empty array. But in our case, we don't have an empty array. We have an array that happens to have 7 items. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And you'll see that once I run it. And there it goes. So companies.length is 7. The third item in our array is Amazon. And the 0 item, or the first item in this case, is the number 555. Okay. Now you can also set values to um, like this. So let me show you this. So let's make 0 equal. So right now 0 is 555. Let's make it equal 2. Okay, this is another way to manipulate the data. So this allows you to change what's already in there. Okay, and this is how you access it. So instead of it being 555, it's going to be 2. And you'll see that reflecting here and here. And there it goes. Okay, so next, iteration. So how do you loop through an array? And this is how you do it. Um, so to loop through an array, you have to use that length property that I talked about earlier, right? And you have to make sure that this is correct. This gets a lot of people. This little middle part right here, the condition to where it stops, it's going to get a lot of you. And be very, very wary of this, okay? So make sure it's not less than or equal to, because if it's less than or equal to, it will go to 7, okay? Because remember, our length right now is 7, and our indices only go up to 6. So just be wary of that. And then again, here's how you access it. So companies, and then you put the I in the brackets, and that's going to print out all of the different items that are inside of this array one by one. So when I run that, this is what it's going to look like. There you go. So it goes to Apple, Google, etc. Okay. Now this is very important as well. This is another concept you're going to need for the assignment. You're going to probably need 2 of these. So there's a hint for you. Okay. Now we are going to go over um, the first method. So the first method we're going to go over is called slice. Slice is going to give you whatever part of the array that you put in. Okay, so this is the syntax for it. So you say slice, and then you put in the starting index and the ending index. And it starts at the index that you give it, which in our case right here is going to be 2, but it goes up to but does not include the ending index. So if you give it 4, it's going to stop at 3. Okay, so that's in our case, it's going to stop at 3 actually. So that's how that works. It's a little weird, but it's I don't know. Just and so it's going to take those. It's going to create a new array out of those, and it's going to um, you'll see it. It's going to store it out. This is sliced companies, right? So you see the sliced companies variable. We're going to print it out in this console log here, and then you'll also see the regular companies, and it should stay unaffected. The regular company. So this is just to take a certain chunk out of it, right? Slice a certain chunk out of the array. So let's run that and see what it looks like. Okay, so here we go. Here's our sliced companies. So Google and Amazon. So Google is at index 2, right? So if you look at here, this is index 0, index 1, index 2. And then it's going to go from 2, but up to and not including 4. So it's going to start here. So it's going to give 2, give us 3, and then we're going to get to 4, but it's going to stop here. It's not going to get 4, as you can see here. It just, why is it like that? I don't know. It's weird. I don't like it either. But, and you can see here that indeed it stays unchanged. The slice method does not manipulate our existing array. It just creates a new one out of it with the indices that we want. Okay. So by the way, everything that I am showing you and everything that I am saying here right now, it's applicable to strings as well. So the slice method would work the same way if you give it a string. Okay, actually, you know what? Let me show that real quick so you guys have an idea what I'm talking about. So let's make companies be a let so we can manipulate it. Okay, so we'll say companies can equal JavaScript. Okay, so now it's a string and it's just called JavaScript. All right, and we're going to slice the second letter from the second index up to the fourth index, but not including. So that means it's going to say J is 0. So 0, 1, 2. Here we go. So it's going to start from the V and the A. So this sliced companies is going to be VA, and let's see if that's right. There it is, VA. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That everything that I'm showing you guys, you can do all of this stuff with strings as well, because under the hood they're very similar. Okay, so let's go ahead and comment these back out and move on to the next one. The next one is sort. Sort is very, very powerful. Um, so sort and reverse, actually, we're going to go over both of these. So sort as you can guess by the name, um, sorts the array, and in our case, it's going to sort it by the name. And it's going to be interesting because we don't only have letters here. We also have some numbers, right? We have the number 2 and we have the number 100 in our array right here. So let's see how they handle that, right? So to call sort, you just do this. You do array.sort, pretty straightforward. Reverse, same thing. I'm assuming you probably can guess what reverse does. So let's run it. So here we go. So sorted array looks like this. So it goes 100 and then it goes to 2. It's all the strings and then it puts them in alphabetical order. And then reverse just takes that and just reverses it. That's it, because it's already sorted. So take note of how this behavior is. So when you do call sort, it's gonna put it in ascending order, or sorry, descending order. So it's gonna go from largest to lowest, and then it's gonna go alphabetical order for the strings. Okay. Next, next we have pop. Pop is fairly straightforward as well. It just removes the last element of an array. Um, so when we run this, it should remove the 100. So you see here it says 100, and then also 100 should not exist in here anymore either. So when we run that, this is what it looks like. Okay, so you see that that 100 is gone. It's not here at the end, and we printed it out right here. Okay, so pop is pretty good. Um, if you already know what you're doing, it's used for a stack a lot. Like you can use this as a stack. We haven't gone over what a stack is yet, but that's what it's for. Index of. So this is if you, so let's say you're using your array and you're putting a bunch of things in there and you're looking for something, but you don't know where it is anymore. Okay. So this command, index of, will give you the index of whatever it is that you're looking for. So in our case, it's Apple, right? So companies.index of Apple should give us 2, or sorry, 1, right? So this should get console log 1. So let me do this real quick. Okay. So when we run it, there it is. Index of Apple is indeed 1. So that's pretty nifty. It can help you with removing things. Sometimes when you want to remove something or change a value, so you can get for example, you can get the index of this apple, right, of Apple, and you can change it. So let's do that real quick. So const px of Apple. Okay, so we have the index of Apple, and then what we can do is we can say companies at index of Apple can equal Tim Cook, right? Because he's the CEO of Apple right now. And we can console log the companies. There you go. Now you'll see that um, this right here is going to end up saying Tim Cook instead of Apple. There it is. See? So there's the number 2, and then Tim Cook, and then everything else is there. So it's pretty nifty. You can use these different commands in tandem with each other. Um, so yeah, it's really powerful stuff. This is includes. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So it's going to pretty much tell you whether this value is in. It's going to tell you whether the value is in the array or not. Oh, one thing I forgot. If it's not found, it's going to return a -1. So let me show you that real quick, actually. Um, Okay, so let's say we're looking for let's delete this. We don't really comment this out. Okay, so let's say we are looking for dog, right? Dog is not in here. So when we do this, it's going to say -1. There it is, -1. Okay, let me, yeah. Okay, cool. And we can comment this out. All right, so what else do we got? So this is the includes, as I was saying. So again, this is going to say false. This is going to say true because Google isn't our company. So when we run that, there it is. False for dog, and then we have true for Google. Pretty straight. A lot of this stuff is straightforward. It's a matter of awareness. It's just knowing what you can and can't do, and then combining the things you can. It's kind of like building a toolbox. That's why I say, you really want to go through these and just kind of play around with them, um, and see what all the different ones are. But for the purposes of this class, all of this, even the stuff that I'm showing you now, is way overkill. We're not going to use all of this stuff, but it's good to know, and you need to know this. Arrays are one of the most common data structures that are used in JavaScript. You absolutely have to know these things. This is very, very critical. Okay, so combining two arrays, concat, aka concatenate. And again, you can do this with, you can concatenate two strings just like you can arrays. So here in this case, we have an animals array. We have a cat and a dog and a bird. And then we're going to create a new array called companies and animals. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to say companies.concat, and we're going to pass in this animals array to it. Uh, and then we're going to console log the companies and animals. So it's going to look like that. So let's run it. And there it is. So companies and animals. We have all of our companies here, right? And then here is our animals. So it just combines them into one array. It's pretty nifty. So the other way to do this is to use what's called the spread operator. Okay. So the spread operator, it looks like, let me grab this. It looks like what you see at the bottom here, right? This is the spread operator. So you want to have an array and you do three dots in front of it to spread it out. Okay. And then you can, in our case, it's companies that's being spread out, right? You can do it like this as well, but you won't see it that like that very often. And then you can combine arrays like you see here, like that. And then if there's another array, I don't know, you can say a people array, right? This is how you can do it. This is just a shorthand method. Instead of using concat, you can do it this way as well. It's going to create a new array with all of these different arrays in it. So in this case, we're going to have companies and animals, and it should give you the same exact output as you see here when we run this. There it is, the same stuff. Now, if you want to change the order, you can put the animals first. How do you do that? Well, you just put the animals first, like this, like that, and you run it, and then you see the animals are going to be first: cat, dog, bird, and then our companies, right? So yeah, and that's it. Um, it's arrays and strings. They're all of these you can use interchangeably. Make sure you go through W3 schools and just kind of play around with some of the examples they have there. It's Yeah, they're not they're straightforward. The stuff is straightforward, but it's it's hard when you need to know how and when to use it, and there's really no better way to do that than to just practice, right? So okay. If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. And if anybody happens to know the answer to your question and they answer, that's even better. Okay. Thank you guys.